A warm welcome back down to Amudi Bay, everyone. I hope you guys are doing well. In episode 41 of Europe in Detail, we're going to finish the rest of this bay. And what we've built so far down here has pretty closely resembled real life. Well, in this episode, we're going to do things just a little bit differently. A lot of this is going to be my own creation, but it's going to go very much with what we would see in Amudi Bay in real life. Everything that gets built on this side of the bay is pretty much returning to that typical Greek style of building with the white rendered walls and buildings. And I want to start here by having a little wee sort of canal that goes off down here to a private shed. Maybe this is owned by one of the local restaurants and this is sort of like a private right of way for boats. In any case, it's going to look really interesting and just add something a bit different to our shoreline here. This is pretty much the first time as well that I've played around with Sully's new clay buildings that he's made on camera. And these are quite unique in the way that he's made them as a network, much like the new terminal buildings or buildings that we got with the new airport DLC. There is a standard size that he has recommended that I make them, but this gives me the ability to flex them up and down and curve them around cliff sides, which is really cool. And what he has also done is, because they are network buildings, obviously we don't get any citizens move in. So what he's done is created a front door and some windows that are plopped down as buildings. So the moment we put the door in place, we get people moving in. So what I'm trying to achieve here on camera is, you can see that I've run a pedestrian path up and over our little stream. This is going to be a little cute pedestrian bridge that's going to go up and over. And I'm just stacking general Greek style buildings in and around this little wee canal that we've made, and the pedestrian path going up gives us access to those buildings that are up on that sort of second level. So the canal that we put in originally is not functioning really in any way, it's purely just to look cool, you know, but the buildings that we've put around it, they all work, and that pedestrian path should be able to take the citizens up to their homes. I also found a really nice way to transition some of these buildings out into the nature, and that's to run a surface network on top of them and make it look like the terrain sort of runs on top of the building. The stairs that you see me putting in here are pretty famous stairs that lead back up to the main part of Air. The rest of this area I wanted to be sort of fishing industry related. I wanted lots of fishing props around. There is a hell of a lot of fishing going on in this bay after all, so this bit here I want to represent a little bit more of that. It's a bit dirtier, there's a few boats around that are broken and in need of repair, but it all adds a bit of character, I reckon. So what I've actually tried to do with this episode is create one section of buildings and then come back in detail and finish that section before we carry on with creating any more. So let's go right back to the very start here and start detailing it. And this is where Sully's restaurant is from the last episode. So we're right by a boat ramp here. I'm going to add a few more seafood markets here. I also want to add a few of those fishing props here and have it transition from that rugged area we just put in to these markets, where there might be a few more sort of citizens around and it might need to be a bit cleaner. So I've put down a couple of oil barrels and a couple of like gas canisters next to them as well. Then I can move on to putting the seafood market in, and I want to make this really detailed. We've got lots of fresh food here. I've even put like little prop fish hanging up from the top of the tarpaulin, and with that pedestrian path nearby, these props just help make the area look really busy and alive. One thing about Santorini that's really easy to spot from all the photos on Google is they've got these beautiful little gardens everywhere with vines and flowers, heaps and heaps of potted plants. I really love the colour that it introduces and brings to these areas, so I'm going to put some in here in some pretty unique areas. Some of them are along handrails, for instance, and I think these look especially good against these white plastered buildings. They just really pop. I was deciding for a while what else to introduce to this area as well, but I decided a little wee shop here, like a snack house or something, is a good transition away from the area we're building from. So just going back to those flowers for a sec, a lot of them, including the ones you can see above where we're working at the moment, are from Not Done Yet, and I've been in contact with Not Done Yet about the series and whether or not they would be interested in helping out making some assets, etc. And they gave me instant access to all of their Patreon list of assets that they've made, so I'm very thankful for that. And we're also in the midst of creating like a Greek villa that's ploppable. Well, actually, like, they've done 90% of the work. I'm just testing it, but it looks really cool, and I'm excited to be a part of these sort of asset creations because I can't do it myself. Any way I can help is good. But because Not Done Yet is from Greece, a lot of the assets that they've made and given me access to are really well done and perfectly suited for our series and very authentic. Things like taro plants, little Greek pots, trellising, Greek style fences, as well as about 90% of the buildings that you've seen in Greece so far. If you guys watched episode 38, you're going to be familiar with what I'm going to do next. If you didn't, then I'm going to basically run pedestrian paths up and around some pretty crazy angles and places, and then I'm going to introduce all of the buildings in this area around the paths. Admittedly, I haven't done too much experimentation in regards to different methods, but doing it this way with the pedestrian path first creates a really nice organic look. Like, the buildings look super chaotic following these paths, which is exactly what we want. And when I put the buildings in first, I tend to place them far too uniformly. Is that even a word? Uniformly? Probably not, but I hope you guys get what I mean anyway. I place all of the buildings down here with said method, and then I can put all of the plastered walls around the pedestrian paths. So you'd think at this point, with all the buildings and paths and plastered walls in, that we'd be pretty close to being finished. Well, you'd be wrong. This is actually where all the work starts. Eventually I want to make cinematic walking tours around the town, and with that in mind, I want to get every little part right. So all of these paths and tunnels have to work and not clip into buildings and things like that. I also need to add in all the surfaces that lead into these buildings as well. But most of the work, especially down here, is going to come in the steps. It always has been in this series so far. They take a long time, but they're also a huge part of the aesthetic down here, and yeah, I need to nail those basically. The next bit of detailing that you're going to see me do here is born out of hours of looking at Google images. The balcony fences here are from Not Done Yet, so I know they're authentic, and in those photos on Google we see lots of like balcony pools and just general lounging areas around them. I'm also going to bring those flowers into this area as well, but here on this handrail we're going to make it look like it's really overgrown and growing around it. I also put a bit more of that lounging type furniture up on the deck, as well as a dog. We see lots of dogs in Greece, and seriously, the workshop has everything you need, including a dog. Shout out to dogs everywhere. So now you're going to see me add a variety of different areas around here with props. We're going to squeeze a few more of those planters in, and in one particular yard I'm going to make it overgrown, look like an old wooden pergola that's been overgrown with like vines and stuff. The lighting at night here in Greece is pretty important, and it seems like they've got this beautiful soft yellow glow in most places, so I'm going to spend a little bit of time here putting some lights in before we have a little overview of what we've built so far. So one of the buildings down here on the waterfront had this beautiful flat roof on it, and it had me inspired to do something a little bit different. So I run a pedestrian path up here that eventually I put stairs underneath, curl it round on that second level, and then basically double it back on itself. And I want to make a fully custom garden bar here. This part of the bay here is really the last part that I can build on, and I want to do something really cool here and really detailed. And I start here by adding some shade sails and extending that second level platform out over the path. So you can see here the citizens are going to come up through the little hole in that second deck and into the restaurant. This gives us a really good platform to start detailing from. It's also pretty unique compared to the restaurants and stuff that we've built along the waterfront so far, and I really love that. So let's start the detailing here with the doors. I've got a lot of pedestrian paths that run into buildings, and this is exactly where I want to put prop doors. I also like to add things like awnings above the doors, or just try and do something different with the doors, otherwise they all look the same, just plugged into the side of a building. Next we're going to add some of the really cool detail and very small detail, things like bottles and shelves behind the bar. If you're wondering where I got all these props from, most of these are from the France market pack from Gizi's. So what I'm trying to do behind the bar here is obviously put these shelves in with the bottles on it to make it look like there's alcohol for sale, but I add these cool blue tile neons behind it as well, and I'm stoked with how this looks. I think it looks really cool. And because it's an outdoor bar, we're going to need an awning or some type of cover here, so I use procedural objects to put that in. Then I want to use one of Z Green Gaming's cool little bar areas that they've just released on the workshop. It comes in a two-piece with the bottom marble piece, then a glass piece that fits on top. I fit that neatly to the little bar area that I'm making here, and once this is installed, it's really starting to look like a bar up here. This right hand side of the bar here, where it transitions to the houses or commercial area, I want to just make it look like it's all a big plastered white wall. This offers a little bit of privacy to that bar area and just a bit of a reminder that we're in Greece as well. So at this point I'm pretty inspired from putting in all of that detail around the bar area to just carry on. So the first thing I want to do here is put in a speaker system. And I'm using amps from I think it's the Concerts DLC. I don't know if it's called that or not, but it's definitely from a DLC. So I plug a couple of them into the wall and then put a couple freestanding. Then I want to go around and start putting in the gardens. This is a garden bar after all. As well as those gardens, I'm going to spend some time putting in all of the things like handrails where I need them, the tables and chairs for the restaurant, and I also spend a fair amount of time making a custom sign for the bar. So to finish off our bay here, we're going to touch back on the real life Amudi Bay, and there's a really cool swimming spot that includes a spot you can jump off. I think in real life you've got to go out to an island to this spot, but I'm going to try and create a walking path that goes around a small part of the coast and then ends up at this swimming spot. I am an absolute sucker for including these types of nature builds in the cities and towns that I build, and all I do here is run a concrete pedestrian path around the coast and then move some rock props in to make it look like it's right on the edge of a little sort of cliff. And whilst I'm building this, I picture myself flying around the sea for the first time, not knowing anything about the game. I'd come down and have a look at the bay, and then I'd see this little wee path, if I look closely, that leads around the coast, and that's the sort of vibe that I'm going for here. You can just see that it leads around to something, and then when you follow it, it comes around to maybe some ancient ruins or something, as well as that swimming spot. So with that guys, we have pretty much finished Amudi Bay, or at least our version of it. I think we've got a really good blend of what makes Greece unique down here, and I've added more detail than I think I've ever done before. I don't think I've ever had more fun playing City Skylines than I have building this bay. It has been an absolute blast. I thank you guys for watching, and I appreciate each and every one of you for viewing my stuff. I hope you have an excellent weekend. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you on the next episode. Peace out.